And you mentioned Junior there, because I know you're very close with your children, but you got yourself into a bit of hot water on Twitter because you said, you described your relationship with your children saying, I'd like to be their best friend.
Yeah.
And a lot of people kind of criticised you for that.
Well, they just need to get over it.
Yeah.
I mean, look at it, put it this way. Put it this way. First and foremost, you've got to be a parent, no doubt about it. But when I look at my parents, how strict they were, very strict, you know, Greek upbringing, they were very religious. I couldn't talk to them about a lot of things, right? And although my upbringing was good and I really appreciate it and I know they showed me love, who did I talk to when things were going wrong and when I was confused about something? I spoke to my brothers. Not everyone's got brothers. Not everyone's got siblings. So who do you talk to? Now, my kids, I instill the same strictness that my parents instilled in me. I'm very strict on lots of things, but I also want them to know that they can talk to me about absolutely anything, absolutely anything. And so you do become their friend as well. They've got to gain that trust to be able to come to you with anything.
But it's quite hard. How do you create that balance between being their best friend and then also disciplining them? Because that's such a...
It's hard,
yeah, I mean, how do you create that balance?
I think we're in a different time now, you know, where some of the things we were talking about, gadgets and things, I mean, I love gadgets too, so you actually end up, you have a lot in common. You don't really realise it. And my parents, when I think of my dad, I'm 44. When my dad was 44, you know, he was scary looking and kind of had that weird sort of, you know, just very, yeah. And so I couldn't imagine going, hey, Dad, let's go on the PlayStation. It just would never happen.
Yeah.
You know,
again, it's lead by example, isn't it? Because a lot of parents who sort of say, oh, my kids are on devices the whole time, and then you see them, and they're on their, you know, their kids are just sort of standing there and they're on their phone the entire time.
That's right. That's why we've got rules at home. For example, the one-screen rule. Now, some of you might roll your eyes at this, and I might not be right, but this is how we do it. We have a one-screen rule. If the TV's on, there are no tablets, there's no anything. We're all watching TV, we're talking about what's on the TV.
That's including you and Emily? So you put your
absolutely.
phones down.
We can't then have our phones and... You know, and then when we sit at the table and we have dinner, we sit as a family. There's no TVs on, there's nothing. We all sit as a family and we talk. Now, the first couple of times, they rolled their eyes on that. What do you mean we're not going to watch? But do that 2 or 3 times, they don't even question it anymore.
And do you find it, because I've been there myself and Colleen obviously as well, do you find it harder as well? Because obviously you and Katie aren't together, so you've got sort of dual parenting going on, because, you know, we had that, you know, they sort of sometimes go, well, Dad doesn't say, you know, Dad doesn't make me do that. My daughter would have said, and I'm like, well, you're my house, my rules.
Yes and no. I think that kids are very adaptable. I think my parents, you know, my mum was really loving and would always cuddle me, and my dad was very strict, and you know, but they both loved us the same. And I learned that in front of Mum I could get away with things, and in front of Dad I couldn't.
They're smart kids, aren't they?
You learn to adapt. You learn to adapt.
And what about, we just talk about sexting there? Do you talk to them about what, you know, what they put online?
It freaks me out so much. I mean, again, this is where I might be too strict, because my daughter's 10 and she's like, Dad, can I have a phone? And I'm like, sorry, what did you just say? And then she's like, but I want to text. I'm like, and I always joke about her going to church, but I said, when you go to church, you can text all the people you want. But the truth of the matter is that she's getting to that age where all her friends have got the phone. So what do? Junior's 12, I gave him a phone. Within 2 weeks, I saw him doing this. Hey, son, how you doing? Yeah, good, Dad, Hey, son.
Yeah, I know, but then when you speak, like I've spoken to my older boys about this, because I'm one of them, of, it drives me mad, and, you know, when I was younger, we didn't have this, and we'd go out and play, and we'd talk to each... And, like, it took, you know, Jake, my son, sat down with me one day and went, Mom, times have changed. They didn't have this when you were a kid, and you have to move with the times and learn to adapt to the times.
But then you talk about sexting and you talk about the things that they're kind of open to, and this is why I'm strict about social media. Again, I might not be right. You know, I don't want... There'll be parents out there that are like, yeah, but my son's got Snapchat, or I get all that.
There's no right or wrong.
There's no right or wrong.
You feel,
but I just feel that when he turns 13, there's things that I'm going to be less able to control. You know, he's allowed to have Instagram. You know, I've got to... But I want to slowly let them have these things. At the moment, they're not allowed on social media, and I am too strict.
Mine weren't allowed phones until they got to high school.
Yeah, well,
this
is it.
Until that, they
but that's what you say. But once they do get to high school, that's when, you know, you're basically handing them a mini computer, aren't you, and going, off you go. And there's anything, they can look at anything, do anything. But do you want them to be that kid that hasn't got, you know, the only kid in the year that doesn't have a phone?
But occasionally they misplace their phone and iPad.
Oh,
Sneaky
do they?
Pete
What?
Andre.
I didn't do anything.
Seen it.
Watching this later.
Well, yeah, well, I just said they misplace it sometimes. It's kind of fun for a couple of weeks.
Peter, what do you think about boundaries, though? Because, like, I just realised when you came on, we were like, oh, Peter, you know, as a joke.
Yeah, I loved
And then
it.
I thought, oh, my goodness. I know, but this is where I get really frightened because I'm thinking, oh, my God, that's going to be picked up. They're
That's
going to say
another-
she did that to Peter Andre. Was that seen as assault? Where do you draw the boundaries between everything that's being
Well,
said at the
okay,
moment
this
with
is
your
a
kids?
tough one. Obviously, you know, I've been in the entertainment industry, and there's been many a times when I've been on stage where I've been grabbed. You know, I'm not saying as
Sorry
much
about
now. Yeah. Not saying as much now, but
I keep for hours.
yeah, you do. Yeah, look, obviously not as much now. I get that, but back in the day, it was like that. But I guess, you know, you've got to look at it that some people are not okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, I was okay with it, but I understand equally that some people are not. Whether it's a woman to a man or a man to a woman, if somebody doesn't like that, you don't do it.